to another edition of Inside Livingston. I'm Mayor Michael Vieira, and today I'm excited because this is an episode that I've wanted to do for a long time about our public works as well as our engineering in town. Today with me is our guest is Frank DeNick, and Frank is one of our key people. I'm going to call you a key person in town. Public Works touches everything that Livingston has on our town property. Their fingerprints are on everything. However, today's episode, we want to talk about two important topics, leaves and snow. And it's that time of year again where I don't like this weather. You know what, the hotter the better for me. So it's kind of getting a little cold for me, but the leaves are starting to fall.
Yeah.
And that means that people are going to start putting the leaves in the street. Mm-hmm. We don't want them in the street.
We want them on the curb, away from storm drains and away from fire hydrants. Those are our big
So
things.
when we see these big pile of leaves in the street, they really should be more onto the person's lawn on the front grass, about a foot into the street only, right?
Yes, just about a foot into the street, a little bit on the curb, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, and it's leaves only, no branches, no nothing?
No branches and sticks they do havoc on our tarps to our truck.
Okay.
So that's a big problem that we've run into with stuff, getting in our tarps.
And another thing that I know is a big problem is leaves over the storm drains. You know, if a homeowner is putting out leaves, or your landscaper, you know what, you should not be putting leaves over the storm drains. And we're actually going to be talking with our township engineer, Jeannette Harduby, a little bit later on this episode. But, you know, that really causes flooding and a lot of other problems with that. And we also don't want the leaves in front of the fire hydrants. That's another big problem.
Absolutely.
So, so we're going to talk about the process of the leaf pickup, but there's a certain time of the year when residents or their landscapers can put the leaves into the street. That's, I guess, from end of October to mid-December?
Yes, the official start for Section 1 is you can put your leaves out in the street on October 30th, starting October 30th. And then we will start our first collection of Section 1 on November 6th.
Okay, you say Section 1. The town is broken into sections.
Mm-hmm.
So they can find that map on our town website.
The best way to do it, I've found, is to go onto the website, find your street in alphabetical order, and right next to your street, it'll say what section you're in.
And then there's a map of all the sections.
And there's also a map, yes.
And I believe that for the next, until December, there's going to be that same map in the West Essex Tribune.
Correct.
Okay. I would suggest that if residents have landscapers, they really should give that map to their landscaper, because a section doesn't put leaves in the street every single week, right?
No, you're only supposed to put it out the week before your scheduled pickup. And that's all on the schedule. It tells you when you can put your leaves in the street, or in the curb, I'm sorry, and what days they'll be picked up.
Okay. So I guess it's for about 4 to 6 weeks, I guess, the leaf
Yes,
process?
we're running from October 30th, and our last pickup day is December 10th.
Okay, so I know the last 2 weeks, I believe, you can put leaves in the street.
Yes.
The last 2 weeks. But before that, how many times are you allowed to put the leaves, like your leaves? Is it once, twice before that last 2 weeks?
It's once, usually. It depends. If you're in Section 1, your first week is anywhere from October 30th to November 6th. And that would be the one time you'd be able to pick up your leaves for Section 1. Okay. Then it would go back. We'd have to go to 2, 3, and then we'd start again for Section 1, which I believe would be the 3 weeks from the first pickup.
Okay. And another danger with these leaves in the street is cars parking over the leaves. Easily that can cause a fire. We know people who have cars have been on fire because of that.
Yes.
So that's another danger with the leaves on the street. Now let's talk about the county roads. What's the process with county roads with their leaves? Because I know that you don't pick up county roads.
County roads are asked to bag their leaves, and they can get the bags. They can come down to the township garage between 8 and 3 any day of the week, and we will hand out the bags that they can put their leaves
So
in.
the bags are for free?
Yes.
So anyone on a county road can come to the Department of Public Works. What's the address over here?
235 South Livingston Avenue.
And just ask for a couple bags of leaves. And who takes those leaves?
We take those leaves
Oh,
too.
you do take
Yes.
those leaves. Okay.
We'll be picking them up on Friday and Saturdays.
Okay, so
At the end of every week.
So at the
Yes.
end of every week, whoever has bags that they're, so you just, your guys travel around the town?
We have another crew that goes out on those days and just picks up bags on all the county roads.
So did you estimate, and I'm putting you on the spot probably right now, have you estimated how many truckloads of leaves you pick up every season?
Number of loads, I don't have an estimate, but I have the cubic yards that we pick up every year. And last year we did between 34 and 35,000 cubic yards of leaves.
Wow. Here's another question. Where do you put these leaves and dump them during the season?
We take them to a recycling yard in Millburn. It's called Rotundi and Son. And we go there. They know us very well by now. We drive through, we dump the leaves, they get a ticket, and they come out and they go back to it.
Wow. So it definitely is a process, and we're going to take a walking tour of one or two streets, just for Frank to kind of give us an idea of what his men and women do at Public Works. But what are some of the other before we take that walk and continue walking, talking about the leaves? What else do you do for Public Works?
Like you said, we touch everything from trees to fields to buildings and blacktop street signs, and that's just a couple of things. But
So if there's a pothole, your guys are out there?
Yep.
Okay.
We rely a lot on the Q alert system with potholes. They send it to us. We know exactly where
So
it
would
is,
you
and we
just
send our
explain
crew
what the
out.
Q alert system is?
A Q alert system is like a reporting system for the residents in town. They can go right onto the township website and file the where the potholes, trees, signs, anything. You can find it all on the Q alert system. It gets sent directly to us, and then we can disperse our crew the right way.
Okay. And I do really mean that your fingerprints or Department of Public Works' fingerprints is on everything that not only the town holds, but our residents hold on township property. You do all the setups, and what most people don't realize is, Public Works is there way before the event even starts, setting it up. And then when everybody leaves, Public Works is there again, taking everything down. So you know what? I have to commend definitely the Department of Public Works. It's one of our key departments. And you know what? I know as a council member and as a mayor, we always thank the Department of Public Works because we know exactly how hard you guys work for Livingston. So
We appreciate that. Thank you.
So I know that we have this big truck over here.
Yep.
Okay. Explain it. It looks like honestly to me it looks like an amusement park ride almost a little bit.
That is probably the most important thing in our leaf collection array of equipment we have. That's a loader with our claw that rides down the street and picks up the pile of leaves. It opens up like a clam and shuts and loads the trucks right from the back.
So this will actually pick up the leaves and then dump it into the dump trucks?
Yes.
So there's a dump truck in front of it, I guess?
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's usually who's ever driving that truck is out blowing the curb line and cleaning off storm drains.
Okay.
And blowing that out.
This is a process where it not only takes two trucks, but also men and women behind the trucks,
Yes.
blowing the leaves and making sure, and a street sweeper too.
Correct.
So you see a lot of leaves in the street, but do you really know the process of how to get rid of them and getting our streets back into order? And it really is the Department of Public Works' responsibility, and we're really happy that they do it for us. But we're going to take a walk in a little while, and I want to talk about the streets and everything.
Okay.
And you could actually explain what happens. I know we're on a street with very little leaves because right now the leaves are just starting to fall,
Yes.
but our viewers could probably imagine what it's going to look like when all of the leaves are in the road and what you guys do. So why don't we just take a walk and explain what goes on?
Sounds good.
So Frank, we ended up putting these vests on because we're walking in the road right now.
Yes.
But so on a typical late fall, ready for leaves. We're on the street. These leaves are probably just falling. The neighbors probably didn't put them out, but where do you want the leaves, or where should they go? I'm assuming it's probably not into the street, only a little bit into the street, but on the curb itself.
Yeah, it's right on the curb and about maybe a foot or two into the street here. And then what happens is the machine will come down and ride the curb line and take off everything they can.
Okay.
And then we'll have a worker here blowing the rest of the leaves out.
Okay, so even though it's on a person's front lawn,
We'll get it, yeah.
your guys are just moving the leaves into the street so your machine could actually pick them up.
Yep.
We just don't want the leaves in the street right now because they're dangerous in the street, right?
Correct.
I've seen some streets where residents have piled their leaves on one side and the other side, and a 2-lane road becomes a 1-lane road.
Yes.
And we really don't want that. And as long as the Public Works is picking the leaves or blowing the leaves from the property into the street, there's really no reason to put the leaves into the street at this point.
Well,
correct?
that's why it's very important also to keep to the schedule, because if the schedule is out and they put them out on the right time, the leaves are only going to stay on that street for a couple days, and then we'll be there. And that's one of our problems is that if you put it out a section ahead, we're not scheduled for that section for a couple of weeks. So
and then it rains, and then it gets slippery,
and if we fall behind or something, we need to stick to that schedule of when to put the leaves on.
And definitely, you know what, we've had in the past a couple of those freak snowstorms.
Yes.
And that just messes everything up.
Absolutely.
Especially with the plows now.
Yes.
Because then they're just plowing the streets, and it's just a mess. So the one thing we really have to stress to our residents is, if you have a landscaper, they really should know the dates that they put the leaves into the street. That's probably the most important part of it, because I'm sure a lot of our residents that are doing it themselves are probably keeping on pace, but it's those landscapers, most probably the ones that are out of town, the ones who live in town, and there's a lot of them, they probably already know the schedule. It's those landscapers who are out of town that really the residents, and if you have a landscaper who, even whether it's in town or out of town, you really do need to get them that schedule so they know that when to put the leaves into the curb and not. So this is this is what we don't want to see.
Yes, this is what we want to avoid.
So what happens is people will just pile their leaves into the street, and it's right over a sewer grate.
Yes.
And then that sewer grate causes, these leaves going into the sewer grate causes a lot of problems with flooding and everything else.
Absolutely. And at that time of the year, we're still getting pretty good rain showers.
And this is already this is just already some leaves on it already.
Absolutely.
And
and we asked to stay about 10 feet away on each side.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes.
So if you do have a storm grate in front of your property, the town is asking you to stay 10 feet from the sewer grate and don't put the leaves 10 feet from the sewer grate. Is that right?
Yes.
Good. And I would assume it's the same with fire hydrants.
Correct.
Very important, because covering up a fire hydrant is not very smart. Those fire hydrants can save your life and your home. But so your guys will come down after you pass with the truck, blowing, and then they'll just make sure that these grates are already cleaned out.
Yes, and that's where the street sweeper comes in too, because the street sweeper can get real close to the curb and sweep all this stuff up and clear all the grates.
Okay.
So whatever's left over from the truck and the blower and everything like that, the street sweeper is the final touch.
Okay. I think this is the most important message that we can give them too, besides not putting the leaves totally into the street.
And once again, that goes with sticking to the schedule, because the less amount of time the leaves are on the street, the better it is for the storm drain.
Yes.
The quicker we can pick it up.
And remember, the schedule is on our Livingston website, as well as in the West Essex Tribune during the entire leaf collection period. So I guess in a couple of weeks, this street will be full of leaves and everything else.
Yes. We start November 6th is like I said, our first pickup, and we won't stop until December 10th.
Okay. Is there anything else I'm missing with? So let me ask you. So, in regards to the county roads, people are just residents are just putting their bags right at the curb.
Yep.
Not into the street, just right at the curb.
Right at the curb.
Okay.
Behind the curb on their side.
And remember, you can get your free bags for residents living on county roads at the Department of Public Works office. Just come in and they're free.
Yes.
Good. Am I missing anything that we need to tell our residents? I think we're I think we did pretty good. You got
so
all your trucks are ready to go, huh?
All the trucks are ready to go.
Good.
Each crew has we'll have about 5 to 6 guys on it.
Oh, that's a good. So how many? So you have different crews?
Yes.
So all over. So you're all over town, I guess.
Well, we stay in our section at our time. So, but it might be one crew might be here, the next crew might be on Glannon, and just in the same. We stay in our section.
Okay.
But they're going to be on 3 different streets.
Okay. So you have 3 different crews, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
One thing I would like to mention is sometimes we do get ahead of schedule, maybe the first week when there's not so much that's coming down. And what we'll do is we will go to another section where it's a little heavier to try to get a head start, maybe by the schools because there's a lot of traffic.
Okay.
But I just want to let everyone know we will be back to start their section on the correct dates. So if you see us out of our section, it's just because we're trying to maybe lighten the load somewhere else.
So, and that brings up a good point. In the sections, are there more important areas such as the schools that you really want to tackle first?
Yes.
Okay.
The schools are you've seen the traffic around the schools, that pickup time and drop off time, and we want to help out the best we can with that.
So let's change topics. And again, it's not a topic that I like. Snow. I guess that's anytime from December on. Although I do remember a freak snowstorm, October 29th,
yes,
a couple years ago. So, what's the process for snow removal? I have to say that Livingston gets a lot of kudos for the way our streets look right after a snowstorm, and that's another wonderful thing that the Department of Public Works does, because 2 hours after a snowstorm, we see blacktop. There's not a lot of towns that can actually boast that.
Yeah.
So what's the process, and can you tell me how you decide which streets get plowed first, and do we do county roads and stuff like that? So what's the process of so the first snowflake falls? When do you wait for the snowplows to come out?
They're ready. I could say that. They won't come out, but snowplow and salting are all hands on deck. So that we have a group of guys who are the salters, and they will be at the garage waiting for that first.
So do we
snowflake.
brine the roads at all in Livingston, or do we pre-salt the roads?
We pre-salt. We do a lot of pre-salting, depending on the storm, depending on the temperature, if it's going to work. Every storm's different. I've been here 15 plus years, and I've never seen 2 snowstorms that we've almost treated the same. So, but for the most part, the salters are ready to go. They're at the garage. We get the weather report. They're there. The second we start to see something happening, they're out on the road, pre-salting or salting.
And the men and women of the Public Works, once the snow starts, they're there until so it could be over 24 hours working, correct?
Absolutely.
Oh, so they don't go home. They may rest, they may go on a lunch break or whatever, but they're here working for Livingston until the roads are all cleared after that snowstorm, right?
Absolutely. And then after the salting, if that is then okay, we're good. We check our walks, there's a lot of walks in town of the oval and buildings.
So not only do you do the streets, you do also the town sidewalks and the school sidewalks.
And some school paths that come through.
So the streets come first, and then
streets come first.
Okay, and then the sidewalks.
Then the sidewalks, and then we have to get buildings open. We have someone who's stationed at the police department to keep that, and fire department to keep those open all the time.
Okay, so let's talk. At what point do you put the plows on the road? I know there has to be a certain about an inch or 2 of snow before the plows can actually start working.
And like I said, every storm's different. So sometimes it could be an inch, and it could just be a heavy inch that the salt is not working, and then right there we put the plows down. Sometimes we've gotten lucky, but we've been able to keep up with it with our salt and not having to pull the plows out.
What would you rather do, salting or plowing?
Salting.
Okay.
Once the plow comes out, that's a whole. Everybody's in. It's we have it, to a science. I think we do.
You do have it to a science, because I tell you, after a couple hours of the last snowflake, we see blacktop. So that's kudos to you guys.
But there's a lot of work that goes into the plowing with breakdowns and moving people around and getting to that point where we see blacktop.
So, does your office have a list of streets, like almost a route of, as soon as it snows and as soon as we have to put the plows out, this is the route and we're not going to deviate from it?
Yes.
Okay.
There's 18 between 18 and 20 routes. There's somewhere in there. And we like to get at least 2 people on a route.
Okay.
And as
Back to back?
Back to back. So one might start on one end of the route and the other start on the other, and they meet in the middle. We do have a separate route. We don't do the county roads, but for the longer roads as Hillside, Belmont, Falcon, we have a separate route completely for that. And that's 2 trucks, and they just do those main roads for the whole storm.
And how do we choose which roads get plowed first? Or I'm sure, well, you already have the list made up and that you're not deviating from
Yeah.
it. When you made that list, was it the most traveled roads first and then the dead ends are last?
Well, it is the main roads. We get those 2 trucks out first. They are the first ones. But besides that, these lists have been here before me, and it seems to work. So we've never changed it. So we just go right off our list that we have and work from there.
Okay. And another important for our homeowners is, number one, the sewer grates again. I think if you have a sewer grate in front of your home, if you're shoveling your sidewalk, shovel the sewer grate out, because you know what? Once the snow starts melting, you don't want it to pond up with water, because at night it's just going to freeze again. And probably the most important is, if you have a fire hydrant in front of your home, please shovel it out. It only takes a couple of minutes to shovel it out, but it could save yours, your neighbors, your homes. You know what? It's really important, because you don't want to have the fire company come up and then have to dig out in ice a fire hydrant.
Absolutely.
And also there's some curb cuts too. Listen, if you're doing your sidewalk, just do the curb cuts. It makes it much easier for people to walk onto the sidewalk if you do your curb cuts. And most of our streets around us have curb cuts through the ADA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Am I missing anything with snow and leaves?
We covered a lot. I think we got most of it.
I hope so, because I think this episode is very important for our residents, because what, a lot of people take for granted that, oh, my leaves are going to get picked up. I'm a Livingston resident. They're going to pick them up, but they don't know the process of picking them up, and then the process of also snow plowing. Mm-hmm. I don't like snow. So, you know what, I try not to even go out when it snows, but there's a lot of people that like to just travel, and you make the streets a lot safer, both during the leaves and the snow. So thank you very much. And
no problem.
You know what, just on behalf of the entire town council, just tell the men and women of the Department of Public Works that we really do appreciate all the hard work that you guys do. And as I said, your fingerprints are on every single event that we have in town.
Thank you.
So,
I really appreciate that. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. So, great.
All right.
This is great. Thank you. So another part of today's episode is I really wanted to talk about our engineering department. And we have our Director of Engineering, Jeannette Harduby, here. Thanks, Jeannette.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
So, Jeannette, tell our residents and our viewers, what does the Livingston Engineering Department do?
I like to say we do everything, but in reality, we do roads, we do road paving, we do a lot of capital projects. So any kind of, I'm trying to think, paving of the senior community center, sidewalks. Those would be larger capital projects that we get involved in, and we do a lot of the design for them. We do the construction management of them, then we do the closeout of the project. So we're involved in those bigger capital projects from start to finish. We also do permitting. So we are in charge of all of the road openings. So anytime someone wants to, say, remove the curb blocks for their driveway, or maybe they want to get a new water connection, we're in charge of all those street openings. So we issue them a permit for it, and we inspect the construction, make sure that it's in tip-top shape, and close that out too. We also issue lot surface drainage permits. So anytime someone is building an addition on their house, maybe they're building a patio, we issue them a lot surface drainage permit that shows that they're meeting the requirements of the township's lot surface drainage ordinance. We are also the township's stormwater coordinators. We're their floodplain manager. We are the planning board engineer, so we review all of the planning board applications. We inspect them. We are also, we work with the water and sewer departments, so we work hand in hand with them to make sure that everybody has access to water and sewer facilities.
You guys do a lot.
It seems like everything, but
So Livingston, South Orange is known for their gas lamps. I think Livingston is known for our Belgian curbs.
I love them.
And this is all around town except on our county roads.
Yeah.
So, when you have to bid, I guess that it's all separate, I guess. You have to bid for the Belgian blocks and everything?
Yes, and it's actually funny because that is what takes the longest time when they're paving a street. The actual milling and paving of a street, that's quick. I'm done with that in a few days.
Let's talk about the two millings. So there's two types of millings. Isn't there where you only go down or pave like maybe an inch? What's that? That's called?
So we do that sometimes. We usually reference
Micro.
it as a two-inch. So micro surfacing would be a little different. Micro surfacing is where they don't mill at all. They just actually spread a thin asphalt emulsion over
Milling
the
is when you
street.
actually take
Milling, we're
you take
actually
the asphalt
taking
off.
some of the pavement
Okay.
off. So we've done lots of different types of milling in town. On some of our streets that aren't in bad condition and that have good curb, we've done just a mill along the curb and then an overlay to kind of give the road a nice crown and take away the bad sections of pavement. We've also done 2-inch mills, so that's when the road is maybe a little bit worse, not crazy, but not good. And then we'll mill along the whole road 2 inches, and then we'll again create that nice crown and level everything off.
In a couple minutes, I'm gonna talk about roads with you, but I interrupted you with the when it came to the Belgian blocks. So that's the hardest job is
Yes.
ordering the Belgian blocks or putting
So
or installing them.
It is the most time-consuming part of the job. Each of those blocks is hand set, and each of these joints is hand grouted in place by the contractor. It takes him a long time. Like I said, the actual milling and paving, that's just a few days. I could blow through all the streets milling and paving them, but installing the curb and doing the drainage improvements, that's what takes the time.
So when a person drives on a road and they see these Belgian blocks, they know they're in Livingston. Because I don't know how many towns that actually have.
You're right.
Have
yeah,
that.
When you drive through town and you see these nice Belgian blocks, you know you're home.
And another indication is when you don't see the Belgian blocks in Livingston, you know you're on a county road.
Very true. Yeah, the county roads are all concrete and the state roads are all concrete, and ours are, for the most part, there's a few stragglers in place. Like over at Regent, maybe Microlab, one of those streets up in that area has some concrete curbs.
So I know that a couple years ago, I believe the town council, it may have been the planning board or zoning board, they passed resolutions, and I'm pretty sure the town council ended up approving them. I'm not trying to remember if I was on, but any new construction has to have sidewalks, right? They have to include sidewalks in their building.
Yeah, so that is not necessarily a new house, but for planning board applications, that's one of the things that the planning board generally considers and makes new planning board applications put in sidewalk.
Yeah, because years ago, we didn't have sidewalks here, a lot of sidewalks in Livingston. And I know that for a couple years, we were asking our residents to fix their sidewalks and replace them with concrete, which was very expensive. And I know
Yes.
that when I got on the council, I really persuaded my council colleagues to vote to go back to asphalt on most of the streets. The main streets are still, I believe, about 7 streets maybe.
No, not even. There's actually so few streets where sidewalk is required to be concrete. It's only
Yeah.
South Livingston,
Northfield?
and Route 10.
Okay.
The others can all be asphalt, which
Yeah.
makes it so much, like you said, cheaper and easier to maintain.
It was a cost savings because a lot of people weren't fixing their sidewalks because it was very expensive. We had a gentleman,
Yeah.
he came up with to us and was like, I only have a small house, it's $25,000. Cement is very expensive.
Yeah, oh, it is, absolutely.
So I don't want to get into climate change because that's not part of this discussion, but lately we're finding that the rain is getting heavier and heavier and more streets are flooding. I guess you're getting a lot of the complaints that I'm getting
Yeah.
from streets.
Yeah.
Is there any? What's the is there a reason why these streets are now flooding? I think it's the size of the storm drains.
Well, I guess to start, you're right. We get flooding when we have these storms that either last for several days and just drop a large amount of rainfall in a large amount of time, or these really short duration storms that just drop a lot of rainfall in a very quick amount of time. And what happens is it's not just your man-made structures that become overwhelmed. It's not just your pipes and your detention basins that become overwhelmed by this large amount of water flowing towards them. It's also your streams and your brooks and everything that becomes overwhelmed with this water. And it's just not feasible to build endlessly bigger pipes. We can't just come in and make streams, and we can't make the Passaic River any bigger.
Yeah.
We're not going to come in there and dredge out the Passaic River and make that bigger. We can't build endlessly bigger pipes, for several reasons. Number one, it would be cost prohibitive.
There was one time where I heard that you actually priced it out and it was millions and tens of millions of dollars.
For a 2-year storm, to design for only a 2-year storm. And I don't know if you're familiar with a 2-year storm, but a 2-year storm is the amount of rain that a storm that's expected to occur every 2 years. But it's actually not even based on that. It's like a probability thing. So you have like a 100-year storm, you have a 1% chance of getting that storm every year. A 50-year storm, you have a 2% chance of getting that storm every year. But going into too much detail.
So, but you know what? You actually brought up a good point. I should have brought it up when I was talking to Frank DeNick with the leaves is, residents or landscapers should not be throwing their leaves into the brooks, because that causes a major problem. And that's really it's a violation. And if residents are seeing anybody throwing their leaves or placing their leaves into the brook or even into the woods that they shouldn't be in, you know what, you need to report it to our police department immediately. So, because that's a cause for the flooding too.
Yeah, the first line of defense is really just keeping all of your inlets, all of your pipes, all of your brooks as clear as they can. So don't dump anything. You shouldn't be dumping anything that's not stormwater in a body of water or in a channel that's designed for stormwater.
I called Public Works a couple weeks ago because there was a microwave in there. It's like somebody just please do not dump into the brooks or into our waterways, because it causes a lot more problems for us trying to mediate the flooding and everything else. So I know that we get a lot of calls. Hey, my street hasn't been paved in 5 years, hasn't been paved in 10 years. It's a mess. Can you talk about the rating system? Because I know that your office hired a firm to rate all the streets. Do you know how many miles we have?
I think it's about 105.
105 miles of road in town. Does that include county roads, or is
No, that is only township roads. So it doesn't include the county, any private streets, or state streets.
105 miles. Okay. So you're in charge of 105 miles of engineering for the roads. So when somebody calls and says, my street hasn't been paved, it's bumpy, you hired a firm to, can you explain what that process is?
Yeah, so we hired an outside firm to come in, and that outside firm drove all 105 miles of our township streets, and they used this 3D laser crack measuring system to detect everything in the pavement, to detect potholes, to detect cracks, to detect variances, just kind of bumpiness in the pavement, to give it a rating for drivability. And they drove both sides of every single street. So that's 210 miles they drove. And through that, they assigned a number. They assigned a 1 to 100 rating for each street. So what Livingston has decided...
One was?
One would be, there is no street, it's terrible.
Okay.
And 100 would be, wow, this street is an A+, great job on it. And they assigned this numerical rating to the streets so that we can prioritize the worst streets first. And that's how we choose what we're going to pave. If the street has the lowest rating on this prioritized list, then those are the ones we want to give our attention to. It doesn't matter if it's a dead end. It doesn't matter if it gets a lot of traffic or a little traffic. We are prioritizing the ones that are in the worst condition first.
And you can't do every street or all the streets at one time, because it's very expensive.
It's very expensive. It takes a lot of time. And just for traffic concerns, if we close all the streets in a neighborhood, how are you going to get in?
So how many streets does Livingston usually do a year?
It varies so much. I couldn't even give you an estimate. Next year, the council was very generous with our funding, so we're starting to put together our priority list. We are just designing them now, and there's a lot of streets next year. And the reason there's a lot of streets also is because a lot of them are shorter streets. So it really depends on the length of the street. But I would say on average, we're only paving maybe 2 miles a year.
And that 2 miles is a couple $1 million.
Oh, absolutely. These Belgian blocks that look so pretty do cost a lot of money to go in. Those are generally about $20 a foot to put in.
Oh, wow.
So it is expensive, sometimes more.
Okay. So as we're walking, and we're on this probably looks like it was paved a
few years ago, yeah,
a couple years ago. So then we come to a street now. This street is with cracks. So that's the difference where whoever we hired goes up and down these streets, and he'll rate this street. Although I don't see too many bumps, I see cracks and everything. But he'll rate this street, and then it'll go onto the list, and eventually it'll get moved up as we're paving the other streets.
Absolutely. So he would look at all of the cracking. He'd look at the patching over here. So he would see all of these variances in the pavement.
Yep. And a lot of the patching that I see, I have a really hard time when I see a street that we've just paved, and then all of a sudden PSE&G, JCP&L, somebody comes and has to run some wiring or something under our street. And I know that we try to work with them when it's, they're informed when we're paving a street.
So PSE&G asks for the street list, and we give them the list. It doesn't matter, though. It is the bane of my existence. I hate more than anybody when we just pave a street and somebody needs to come in and put a water line in or put a gas line in.
Yeah.
We try and work with the people who are doing construction on houses. Like if we see, hey, this house is under construction, we'll let them know, hey, we're coming in, we're going to be paving the street. You want to get your utility work done? Yep. Doesn't matter.
So as you're saying that, I'm looking at the Belgian blocks because there is a difference. These Belgian blocks do wear.
Yeah.
So, because those clearly look newer, because they're only a couple years old, but they wear.
They do. You know what? Honestly, these are still in pretty good shape. They're all fairly straight.
Yeah. But you could tell the color. You could tell the color-wise and everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So, is there anything else you want to add about your department? I know it's a very important department for us in town, and you probably get a bulk of my complaints from residents, and I'm sorry about that.
No, we're here to help the residents. We love when they reach out to us. We're happy to meet with them and
you have a great
over
staff
anything.
too, Rocco and everybody else.
We have an amazing staff. Rocco and Chad are our other engineers, and they are tip-top. I mean, Livingston really does have some of the best engineers. They're great.
Yeah, so, well, thank you. Is there anything else you need to add or want to add? And
No.
Okay, and your office is over in Town Hall?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jeannette. This is great. Flooding, I know that it's something that we are hiring engineering firms to look at some of the flooding around town.
Yeah.
So I know the town council has been talking about that, trying to rectify it. It's going to be hard, especially with more rain and heavier rains that come, but we're doing our best.
Yeah.
And you're doing your best. I know you are.
Thanks.
So, but thank you very much. So I want to thank all of our viewers today. Today was a really important episode where we talked about leaf cleanup and what you should do or should not do. Really, I encourage you to talk to your landscapers because they're the ones that are actually putting the leaves in the street if you have a landscaper. We talked about a little bit about the snow removal. Please clean in front of your fire hydrants. Make sure that the storm drains are cleaned. And then with Jeannette here, we talked about streets, a little bit of paving, the flooding issues that we're constantly going through. So I hope you enjoyed this issue of Inside Livingston. I'm Mayor Michael Vieira. Until next time, thank you.